So let's talk about Aventus, the fragrance that kind of was one of the main fragrances that got me into this hobby. One of the main fragrances that made me really interested in fragrances at all. And I smelled the idea behind Aventus, and I'm phrasing it like that because it wasn't Aventus that I smelled. It was actually Mont Blanc Explorer, which is known as one of the best designer dupes basically, and it's hardly a designer. It's a French brand, and they make, I think they make pens. And Mont Blanc Explorer is known for being a very good Aventus dupe, and I agree with that. I own Mont Blanc Explorer, and I think it's a beautiful fragrance. And the first time I smelled it, I was like completely stunned by it actually, because I thought it was so nice smelling. I haven't smelled anything that smelled like that. I knew the usual stuff, and Aventus was never really big here in Germany, and at least not in my world. I was never in the world where I was never in the scene where people would wear Aventus. Nowadays, it's more of a fragrance genre almost, because there's so many Aventus and Aventus-like fragrances. There's even an entire fragrance house behind building Aventus batches, right? It's called Pineapple Vintage, I think. They have like loads of different Aventus batches basically. Let's quickly get this here. This is my 2019 batch. If you're wondering why it's full, is because I have another batch which I'm using actively. It's a bigger flacon. I have it back there, but it's not in the video because it's not important. But just so that everyone will understand why this is still full. And this is a 2019 batch, by the way. This is one of the worst batches, you could say, not smell-wise. I think this smells beautiful because I like what is changed in this batch, which a lot of people actually hate it. It's very citrusy. And what people loved most about Aventus was that it was fruity and smoky and basically everything that was not citrusy and woody only, right? Which it turned into with these years, basically. It was this, you must understand, is only 1.5 to 2 years after they basically changed the formula, right? And they even rolled back on that by making the later batches, like in 2021 and 22, I think it was specifically making them a little more smoky, people said, or they focused on making them more darker and smoky. Back in 2010 to 2014, which are today the 4 years of the most sought after batches, and this is how they looked. This is a 2016 batch, keep that in mind. This is a rather fruity and woody batch, and this is also quite liked actually. But the most sought after batch, I would say, was the 2014 one. It was notorious for being like fruity and smoky. Pineapple is fruity. Aventus has apple, Aventus has blackcurrant, Aventus has citruses, and it has, well, pineapple. And overall it makes for a very fruity smell, right? But then it has smoky nuances, it has woody nuances. Back when it looked like this, it used to also smell like kind of a little bit like licorice, right? Which also adds to the more darker feel of it. But then in the base there's ambroxan. Back in the day they said ambergris. I'm not sure if it's actually ambergris, ambroxan being the molecule, the fake version of ambergris basically. And when Aventus later changed in 2017, they switched from these to these bottles. People actually, and this will be the tinfoil hat conspiracy theory knowledge here, people thought they changed actually the formula. For one, because the juice all of a sudden didn't look as yellow as you can see in here. It turned into this white one. And then there was this spark of all kinds of rumors that it was due to maceration. Maceration being this aging process basically of fragrance, which happens when the first time you spray fragrance, it only sprays like air. And if this air gets out of there and the fragrance starts spraying, but basically air can get into the fragrance as well, and with that the maceration process basically starts, right? So there's no more like vacuum in there, it's only air and fragrance, right? So this little space in here, because this fragrance was sprayed, is not only fragrance and vacuum, it's fragrance and oxygen, right? And that's when the process basically happens. People say that, and even that can be considered tinfoil hat knowledge, because some people don't even believe in that. Some people say this white or clear color will never turn into this yellow tint. But who knows? I never had any Aventus for longer than like 4 years or something. And as I said, this is a 2019 batch, and this is still pretty clear. There's no yellow hue on the color, right? So keeping all that in mind, I could imagine they changed the composition. So basically the formula was always different, and people had like 2 big variations within one fragrance in order for them to fully enjoy the one composition they had, right? So they stuck with a more basic formula, I guess. I don't know if there was like very rare and very special components in here. Creed in general is known for very high quality ingredients, and you can smell that. The ambergris smells always the same. It smells always very high quality, or the ambroxan, better yet ambroxan, because not actual ambergris. Ambergris is not used actually anymore because it's fetched from animals, and that's what they don't want to do anymore, which is a good thing. When this bottle basically changed is when all this Aventus has turned into a shadow of its former self. Talk started, and in a rough idea I could agree with that, especially since I have owned this batch. I can definitely tell you one thing: it does perform way better, especially compared to these 2018 to 2021 batches. Those 4 years are like, they have heavily added to the bad reputation of Aventus, because people say it doesn't perform anymore. I haven't smelled very new batches like 22 and 23. When 22, I think in 22 or 23 it was where they changed, and this I will just add in here with this fragrance to these metal caps, and you can hear it when you it sounds metallic here. It's metal cap. It's heavy, it's weighty, and they have introduced these metal caps, and people said they started making these normal Aventuses more into these smokier and woodier batches, which I cannot confirm because I haven't smelled that. I never tried any 23 and 4 batches. This I will put aside for now because it's a different fragrance. 10 years passed after this was released, 2010, which is the year of Aventus, and they released Aventus 10-year anniversary edition. This one I want to quickly talk about. As you can see, it looks pretty fancy. It looks like really nice actually, especially in comparison to the normal ones. This up here is a plastic cap. It looks pretty good. It's very elegant looking, right? And it has this 10-year anniversary writing on there, but that is actually it. It's the exact same fragrance. There's rumors out there, there's people out there talking about all kinds of stuff, saying this is more vanillic and there's more like a heavier vanilla in there. There's like melon in there, because I don't know, for some reason Fragrantica has melon listed in there. There is no melon in here. It's normal Aventus, quite literally. And I know because I compared these. This is a 2019 batch. This is just a normal 2020 batch with this 10-year anniversary writing on there, because it's a 10-year anniversary fragrance, and they released it with this collector's bottle basically. I wanted to know because I didn't believe it in the beginning. Then I smelled it, smelled literally no difference, and if I smelled any differences, it was more like placebo and all kinds of pretentious stuff that you see on the internet. And then finally I just decided to ask the Creed support. Only difference they claim to these fragrances is that they are in these darker bottles and they are made for collectors, and therefore this dark coloring on here adds to its less basically aging. That's the only difference. It's the same fragrance, right? I've smelled them multiple times. It's the same fragrance. They used to release Aventus in 120 ml bottles. This is 100 ml, this is 120 ml. This one and this one, these two, so the 10-year anniversary and the normal Aventus that we smell nowadays and have smelled in 2019, they are closer than this and this in comparison. So these smell alike, this smells different. This is a different, way different batch basically. These are 1 year difference batches and they smell almost the same. And especially with these, as I said, the 2018 to 2021 batches, they smell like 90% the same, and they are probably the weakest. There's a lot of people that think this is a different fragrance, that this has like some very big differences in batch and stuff. Like, as I said, more vanilla and stuff, like different fruits. That's absolutely not the case. If you even like, if you open the cap, smell it on the cap, you can immediately smell it's quite literally the same fragrance. There's really no difference. I've sprayed them. I had one on one arm, the other one on the other. I didn't even smell a difference in performance whatsoever. Same longevity, same sillage, basically. Same projection, everything. Okay, so same fragrance. So let's pull this one aside. Focus on these differences here. This one, way more potent, way stronger, a bit darker, especially this batch, not as dark, but the older they get, basically, people say the older they was, the darker they were. As I said, up to the point where people say it smelled like licorice. These smell very much different. They perform very much different. With the normal Aventus, and I don't know, as I said, the last couple years of batches, I don't know, but with these 2018 to 21 batches, you had like 6 to 8 hours max performance, not even 8 hours actually. It was more around 6 to 7 max. And then it was done basically. If I spray this, for one, it projects very loud, even though it's old now. This is, keep in mind, this is like 9 years old. This lasts a very long time actually. I sprayed this once when I went somewhere. I was out of my city. It was an entire day passed basically. I came back and I could still detect this on me, right? So this is a very strong fragrance. When you spray this, you go to work, you come back, 8 hours passed, it's hardly detectable actually. So it's a weak fragrance. That's what you have to keep in mind with the newer batches. I don't know, as I said, about the very new ones, which I did, but I just don't want to buy another Aventus right now. I also own another 2021 batch. As I said, it's in a bigger flacon. It's a 21 batch, and it also smells like that one. So, and 1 year after they brought the metal caps, I think in 22, after they released this, it has this very Sauvage Elixir-like smell to it, which had this hype when Sauvage Elixir basically was one of the best-selling designer fragrances out there, rightfully so, because it's a beautiful fragrance, it's a strong fragrance, it has performance, it has projection, it has a nice DNA, it's very modern smell, right? Good in basically every category. And I love Sauvage Elixir, and this was kind of in the same vein. So note-wise, these are very different because Absolu has a lot of the Aventus nuances, right? Also with the citruses, the pineapple, the woody base. But this one adds a lot of different spicy notes. With, for one, clove. Then we have nutmeg in here, which is very spicy. We have cinnamon, of course, yet again, very spicy note. Ginger, which can be considered spicy, and finally cardamom, which again is very spicy. There's even rose in here. It is a base heavier fragrance because there's patchouli in the base here, unlike with this one in the heart. And then finally we have sandalwood, vetiver, and tonka bean in here in the base. So it's a heavier fragrance. It all feels very heavy, right, in comparison to this. It lasts a very long time actually. It's a very long lasting fragrance. The normal Aventus, at least now, not anymore. Same as this actually. This doesn't last all that long as well. So you can put this one in the middle. This one I will put here. And right here, if I would own it, would be another fragrance which I will probably include as a screenshot in here. I have smelled it, which is Aventus Cologne, which is yet another Aventus. And just the short version, Cologne in this specific fragrance, just like in a lot of different fragrances actually nowadays, Cologne is meant as a flanker basically. Cologne used to be a concentration, right? A fragrance concentration, which was a very low fragrance concentration with a very small amount of oil and a heavy amount of alcohol, which derives from the word Cologne, the city, which is Köln in Germany, where the Kölnisch Wasser is from, right? And it was basically a fresh maker, right? Men had cologne, women had their perfume, whatever. It would smell nice, it was citrusy and floral smelling, and basically would use it to fresh yourself up when it was hot. That's where it all derived from. And years after, cologne would be a concentration, right? Just like in the cologne, in the original cologne, it was a very like low oil concentrated fragrance basically. With a high amount of alcohol, a low amount of oil, it would be a cologne concentration fragrance. Nowadays, the cologne stands for something that is like fresh basically. When there's a fragrance and it has a cologne flanker, you know it's a fresh flanker. And Aventus Cologne, very much so, is a fresher flanker of Aventus. You can smell that the Aventus DNA is in there. There is this Creed signature cedar and birch smell in there. So it's a bit spicier and fresher, right? With ginger and pink pepper and mint. And then in the top we have mandarin orange and bergamot. And then finally in the base of Aventus Cologne we have cedar wood and birch wood, musk, tonka bean and styrex, which is balsamic resin basically. Smell-wise, It's citrusy, it's fresh, it's a little spicy, but in a fresh way, right? You could say this Aventus structure, and then no pineapple whatsoever, and just a focus on citruses. It's more in the vein of something like a Versace Pour Homme or a Chanel Allure Homme. Although a very nice fragrance, it's just like this, not in the Aventus ballpark, you could say, because it does a different job. It's, for one, it's a fresh fragrance, right? While this one is a dark fragrance. And then finally, it's not focused around the Aventus thing. It's just the Aventus structure, you could say. And they are very much their own fragrances, you could say, but they have this very clear Aventus idea behind them, right? Which I think is a nice thing. They get a lot of hate for no reason, although Cologne is a very liked fragrance. This one gets a lot of hate, actually. The problem being that this one revolved around the hype. I can recommend all of these fragrances. I still can recommend Aventus, actually. I love Aventus. There's good clones out there. I will cover them in another video. This one I actually like a lot. I think it's a nice cold weather fragrance, especially if you love the Aventus DNA. Although you could argue that this doesn't smell like Aventus. Same for Cologne. It doesn't smell like really like Aventus. It's a different fragrance, but it's a very nice summertime fragrance, I think. If you love Aventus, of course, I still think Aventus itself is the way to go to this day, actually. If you love Chanel Allure Homme Sport or something in the vein of Allure Homme Sport and you love Aventus, you will love Aventus Cologne. If you love Sauvage Elixir or Sauvage actually in general, and you love Aventus, you will love Aventus Absolu. And not the longest lasting fragrances when it comes to performance to price ratio especially, but smell-wise, one of the best houses out there still to this day, I think. I will have to check out some of the newer Creed creations. I haven't smelled any of them lately, but I will get to that very soon, I think. Until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my channel if you want more fragrance videos, and then I wish everyone a good one. Bye bye.